In today's show of Hot Dividend Winners, I'm going to give you an update on one of my favorite international oil stocks that I recommended for the newsletter subscribers at the beginning of the year. It's up around 57%, so we're making bank. We're going to talk about oil. We're going to talk about this oil stock and its dividends and what the charts look like and when to maybe get in if you're not in already. This is a really interesting stock. It's one of my favorite setups where we're going to hit two birds with one stone. You'll learn more about it in just a few minutes. Let's go. Bull Market Lifestyle presents Hot Dividend Winners for max dividend profits through high yields and high stock upside. I know gold broke down, silver broke down, but what we really need to wait and see is what's happening today on Friday because of the weekly close. So, a quick announcement, by the way, if you're new to the channel, this ugly guy here, Daniel Wilhelmi, I'm the host of the channel. Tomorrow, big video, obviously. Weekly candles, gold, silver, maybe copper. We'll see if we have enough time for it. That will be really important if gold can hold the 4K on the weekly or not. In today's video, we're going to look at oil, and one of my favorite oil plays in the high yield dividend world, the strategy that you, if you follow this channel, are familiar with. I play dividends a little different than the mainstream does. If you missed the previous videos, hit the subscribe button, and you can obviously always go back and watch the videos. Let's start with oil. Here's the oil chart. We caught the uptrend really well. If you took the long side, you're sitting on some nice gains, but I would encourage you to not forget to take some profits. As you can see in the chart, you see that new silver line that I drew in. Clearly some resistance there. This trade is gone. If you're not in it, that's okay. This one left the station without you. That's the beautiful thing about swing trades. The next one's going to come just around the corner. The max potential for this trade, in my opinion, is gap fill, which then also coincides with the purple line that you see here, which is the 50-day moving average. So we're talking around, $5. Yeah, okay, that's 7% if it even gets there. That's not worth the risk on the downside. The more important part for the oil price right now that we're going to watch is not if it's going to jump that silver resistance zone and do a gap fill. That's okay, right? That doesn't tell us anything about the medium development and price action in oil. What we want to see is, will oil establish itself above the 200-day moving average, the golden line, or will it fall back below, which would then be obviously quite bearish? That is what I pay attention to right now. I don't care if we go to 85 or not. I care, are we holding above the 200-day moving average? Because if that happens, then we may indeed get a change of trend, especially if we make a higher high. So that then would be the gap fill and would also coincide with breaking the 50-day moving average. But we're not there yet. Just as I said before, the trade in oil is not the commodity, it's the stocks. So let's talk about Ecopetrol. If you were a newsletter subscriber, I gave this one out to the newsletter subscribers for free at the beginning of the year as one of my favorite commodity stocks for 2026. And that one has played out fantastic. We're up 57% just on price action alone. Dividend comes on top. That's a great looking chart. Look what happened. We just made a new, and let me zoom out for you so you understand this, 4-year high at the end of June. Now, we're going to talk about what happened here, but this is significant because this looks completely different than the American oil stocks or the European oil stocks. So what's going on here? I'm not going to rehearse everything about Ecopetrol and the company. Again, if you were a part of the newsletter, then you were familiar with the company. And I do know that some of you bought the stock of that presentation. Again, if you're not a subscriber of the VIP newsletter, link is in the comments. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. We're not going to spam you. It's going to be quality content. Sometimes it's going to be suggestions and presentations like Ecopetrol, for example. Sometimes it's going to be about strategy and portfolio management like this weekend. If you want to know more about Ecopetrol, just go back and watch the video. Just in a nutshell, the story, Ecopetrol is the big government oil company of the state of Colombia. It's basically the equivalent of Petrobras in Brazil, just for Colombia. The reason why I liked Ecopetrol is not only because it pays a high dividend, it pays a crazy high dividend when the oil price is high. We're going to come to that in a second. But I liked it because it was also a play on Colombia, which had presidential elections and a change of leadership in Colombia, which has happened. On June 21st, the conservative candidate Esprella, man, I hope I pronounced that right, won the runoff against the left candidate Cepeda. It was close, 49.7% versus 48.7%, but hey, victory is a victory. And that obviously is exactly what I was hoping for, what the market was hoping for. And we can see it, and let me switch real quick for you to the Colombia, the most popular Colombia ETF called Colo. And you can see, man, that's a beautiful uptrend that we have been in since 2025. Basically, in 2025 became very clear, okay, the absolutely terrible left president would not be able to run again, and there would probably be a political change back to a conservative president, which has happened now. Now, you see Colombia ETF looking great. If you're looking for an emerging markets ETF, by the way, that is one that could be interesting, because if we zoom out, whoop, we see, let me take off the 250 day for you. There we go. You can see, man, there's a big air pocket here that gets us to 65. So that would be a 50% increase in the ETF alone. If you get lucky, and you might get it on weakness, well, could be a really interesting play that not many people have on the agenda yet. And Ecopetrol, again, as the heavyweight in the oil and gas sector, obviously profited from this double trade, energy stocks plus Colombia. This is what I love. You know this. We played the same thing with Petrobras, right? Oil, gas, especially oil, plus Brazil, that's Petrobras. And then we're going to get a super nice high yield dividend on top. So the main story with Colombia and with Ecopetrol is that when the former left president basically suggested that he would nationalize the mining sector and the oil and gas business, basically all the international investors threw their hands up and left. But now they're coming back. Not many people are invested in Colombia yet. And that's what we want to see. We want to have people on the sideline with money that are not invested yet that can be buyers. And that's the case with Colombia, especially with this new president, Esprella. I really need to take a Spanish course. This is terrible pronunciation. I apologize for that. So, why is he exactly what the market wants? Well, he's a supporter for deregulation, especially for the oil and gas sector. Ding, ding, ding. That's gold for Ecopetrol. He's pro-investment reforms. He is pro-close relationships with the US and with Israel. And he's supporting the mining sector. Doesn't get much better for commodity mining investors like us. So Ecopetrol, politically, that is a 5 out of 5 hit that we landed here. It turned out exactly as I had suggested in January, and we're getting paid for it. Now, talking about getting paid. Wilhelmi, yo, what's up? Stop eating all those schnitzels. Tell me about the dividend yield. Yes. So the dividend yield for Ecopetrol is pretty volatile. So this is an investment that I'm a shareholder myself. Full disclosure, gonna hold for a long time. And I know it's gonna even out. When the oil price is doing terrible and it's down, as it was, for example, in 2025, the dividend yield is only 4 to 6%. Now, when the oil price is doing well, Ecopetrol easily pays out 20%. It also depends on the share price, obviously, but in the past, 20% dividend yield. Now, again, because we have a change in the sentiment for Colombia and Colombian stocks, those golden times when you had like a 20% dividend yield and sometimes even a 30% dividend yield, those were the days when the stock of Ecopetrol was much, much lower. But if the oil price stays higher, we will see big payouts with Ecopetrol. Why? Well, because the government holds large stakes in Ecopetrol and they want their money. So they will push for higher payouts. And historically, the dividend yield of Ecopetrol over the past 15 years, one year they didn't pay a dividend, that was 2016 for the year 2015. But on average, the dividend yield over the past 15 years, about 10% per year. That is outstanding. That's not what you're going to get with any US or European oil stock. And you get the Colombia story, and you get the long-term upside in Ecopetrol, of which, fair enough, now, since we got in at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, obviously some of it has already been priced in. And we have these gains. If you're not in it, those are gone. But as you can see, I mean, 2020, 2019, we're at prices around 2021. So that gives us another 40% upside easily, right? If we're talking about, hey, the ETF has an upside of 50%, there's a big gap fill here, by the way. You can kind of see where we're going with this. For the people that were in the newsletter in January and that were in, this is probably going to be a pretty easy double, maybe even more. And then we're going to get that juicy, juicy dividend on top of it. Now, what do you do if you're not invested yet? Well, we are starting to see a lower high. That makes sense. This year, what we saw here, that is the election results, which the stock market just partied and champagne partied these results, right? That's now been taken off the table. That's old news. So now we're looking at how's the oil price doing. We all know how the oil price is doing. It hasn't been doing great in the past 2 months, but stabilizing a little bit. And how will the new president perform in Colombia? We have a gap fill right here. We have the 50-day, so that would be somewhere around 15 to 40.50 US dollars. You can buy the stock at the NYSE, not a problem. I would probably wait and see if we get to the lower end of this resistance zone, so somewhere around 14.10. Now, it'll take a lower oil price and a cooling down of the oil price for that, and probably a correction. If we get a bigger correction in the stock market, then I assume we're going to go down to this area here, which is this support zone. And that's where the 200 comes in. So that would be around $13 to $12.80 to around $13, depending when we get there. That would probably be the ideal entry zone if you're not invested yet. If you are invested, I'm going to let my position run. Will it be volatile? Yeah, of course. It's emerging markets. It's Colombia. Come on. These stocks do behave like they're on cocaine. That's part of the deal. But then again, especially if the oil price stays higher, we're going to get those juicy dividends. And we have the political change in Colombia. The international capital is starting to flow back into the Colombian market. We have seen it in the ETF and we've seen it here in Ecopetrol. So that is it for today's show. I see you tomorrow with the weekly candles for gold and silver and the new newsletter video. If you haven't signed up, again, sign up. It's free. Link is in the comments. Have a great Friday. Man, it's Friday already. Unbelievable how fast this week goes by. See you on Saturday. Bye-bye.